And a very good Monday evening. Welcome into Time Out here on TVNB. A great 30 minutes lined up for you. Some of the conversation we will be discussing centers on the St. John Flames and their turnaround weekend here at Harbor Station. A big weekend for provincial basketball in Fredericton. And the Rocket Man is off to the Big Apple. All that and a whole lot more coming up, so don't go far. And a good Monday evening. Hope your first day back to the work grind went well. If not, hey, kick back, relax, and enjoy the next 30 minutes. We got some great sports topics to discuss. Joining me this weekend is Terry Ferguson. Normally in the basketball court, we normally have you on tape and we just see your face once in a while. Nice to have you here in the studio.
Thanks, Jim.
And of course, our old faithful Bruce McDonald is here as well. Nice to have you, Bruce.
Thanks, Jim.
Let's start right off, of course, big weekend for the St. John Flames. Big turnaround weekend. They had tied a franchise record with a 9-game winless slide heading into Friday night to take on the Baby Buds from the Rock, and a huge win, 5-3 win against the Leafs. And then, of course, Saturday night, a thrilling win. Huge crowd at Harbor Station, well over 5,000 fans on hand to see the Flames win a thrilling 6-5 overtime win. I guess we'll start with you, Bruce. Give me your feelings on this turnaround weekend. They needed it, no question.
Definitely. I missed Friday's game. However, I did get to Saturday's, and it was 5-2 Flames after the first period. They looked great. Then they sleptwalked through the last 2 periods, did nothing. Before you knew it, we had overtime on our hands. And that's when this new rule, the NHL rule, came in, and they played 4-on-4. And overtime was great. 3 minutes end-to-end hockey. And Pankowicz, with a nice shot to the top corner, beat the St. John's goaltender.
All right, let's talk about this rule for a little bit. You know, the AHL, of course, the affiliate of the NHL. Guinea pig is the word I keep hearing when a new rule comes into effect. They want to try it down here in the league. And so far, the reviews I've heard since Saturday night have been great. Like you said, it's open-end hockey. It's back and forth, wide open. And what do you think about this rule, Terry? Do you like it 4-on-4, or do you want to go back to the old stable?
Well, I think it comes right down to you want to make sure that the fans are getting the best value for their dollar when they come in through the gate. And if it can add some more entertainment, some more open ice hockey, like the NBA always used to say, fantastic. So why not give what the fans want? Let's see what the fans like about it. If they enjoy it, keep it around.
Good point. Bruce?
I agree. I mean, the overtime loser in the AHL gets a single point anyhow. That's another debate. I don't agree with that at all.
No.
But as long as they're getting a single point, why not, bring the offense forward, have the teams go for the win? But if you want, if you want to give it to the fans totally, let's bring the shootout in.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, see, I don't like the shootout idea. That's just
I don't either.
That's a bad way to end a hockey game.
A lot of fans do, though. I mean, you want the entertainment into things.
Yeah, I suppose, but I mean, a shootout, is getting down to a one-on-one basis where it was a team effort for 60 minutes, and now all of a sudden you go over to the bench and you tell, Rick Vive or McAdam, whoever might be coaching, a given weekend at Harbor Station, if it does go into overtime, you're telling this guy that, okay, your whole team played for 60 minutes and it was a full team effort, but now we want you to try to pick and choose who you think can put the biscuit in the net and win a game for you. I don't agree with that at all.
Okay. I think that it comes down to a team like the Flames this year, who are not an offensive force as they have been in the past. So if they come out and they play a good hockey game, good solid game, Rick Vai has his game plan, and the kids, the guys go out and execute it. And then next thing you know, it comes down to the battle of the snipers at the end of the hockey game.
Sure.
So I mean, I don't really agree with the shootout myself.
I like the 4-on-4 rule. Don't get me wrong. I think that's a great new rule. I think Dave Andrews and the boys down at the head office, Mike Churchill, great thumbs up on that one. But the rule we get back to that we were arguing before the cameras got rolling here was the point for the overtime loss. I don't agree with that. I mean, sure, you play a great game, you go into overtime, obviously it is a good back and forth game, you're fighting, you're battling, but why? Because you lose, you get a point for showing up. Like, there's no brownie points, or there's no prize for second place as the old rule goes, so I don't agree with that. I mean, it's an old story, but I just think that with it's 4-on-4 now and more wide open, that why are you rewarding a team that lost?
I don't agree with the point either for an overtime loss. However, I think if you're going to bring it down to 4-on-4, I think that point might have to be there. Otherwise, you know, in the National Hockey League now, you don't get a point for an overtime loss, and they play 5-on-5, of course, in the overtime period.
Sure.
I think the team's risking a bit too much if you lower it down to 4-on-4 and you're not getting anything in overtime, really. I mean,
yeah, but you lost.
I don't care if they go 3-on-3.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You lost the game, so why should you get anything?
Yeah, but
I mean, especially now.
But you're not playing hockey the way it was designed to be played then. 4-on-4,
No, but listen to with the Flames. This was a big weekend for the Flames. They needed these 2 wins and they got them. Yeah. But instead of getting 4 points to try to close the gap between them and the Leafs,
they gained 3.
They've only gotten 3.
Yeah.
And they won both games.
Yes, you're right.
So why should a team, whether it be the Flames, the Montreal Canadiens, Toronto Maple Leafs, whoever, whether it be AHL or NHL hockey, why should a team who's fighting to get that last playoff spot or to move up in the standings to get the home ice advantage heading into the playoffs be penalized because they won?
Well, I'm not disagreeing on that edge of things. I'm just saying if they're changing the overtime rules, the amount of skaters on the ice, I think, you know, obviously that single point should stay in there. But I said in the best of worlds, you just leave the overtime the way it was and no point for overtime loss. I think also play it till you have a winner. The heck with any ties.
Okay.
You know,
all right.
Ties like kissing your sister, right? end the game. I don't care if it takes you 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And baseball games can go 20 innings sometimes before you get a winner.
Exactly. So, and
they don't. And an umpire doesn't get any more money for that, does he?
No, he doesn't. Certainly not.
The boys are a little bitter this morning, if you haven't noticed. Anyway, we roll right along. The Air Canada Centre opens up over the weekend. Toronto's brand new, beautiful facility.
Yeah.
They had a couple of kids raise the banners and raised all the old NHL or Stanley Cup banners, I should say, and a thrilling game as well. 3-time overtime loss for our Habs, unfortunately, but the hometown fans went home happy, and former Flame Ladislav Cohn with the assist on the winning goal. Your feelings on the Air Canada Centre?
Beautiful place. Toronto, of course, the Big Smoke of Canada put on a fantastic show with the closure and an opening of the new centre. Big win for Toronto. They needed it because they were flat on their closing game against Chicago. And Montreal, it was a big loss for Montreal. Montreal's in a real tough battle. They have games played in advance of other teams that are, you know, even with them, or they're chasing the final spot. So Montreal's in for a tough final 25 games of the schedule to have a chance to make it to the playoffs, Jim.
No question.
I missed the game, Jim. I was at the AHL game, then I had a high school game afterwards, but I just read in the paper that Dave Keon wasn't going to be there, and of course Rick Vibe was down here coaching. So I guess the Leafs probably had one other player that was half decent in their history. He might have been there. Yeah. So.
Well, I mean, you know, I think the facility is great. I wasn't too thrilled with the outcome of the game. I mean, being a Habs fan, and we've got a full circle of them here tonight, it makes. I think you're right with Montreal. I mean, they were coming off some big wins. They beat Philadelphia Thursday night 3-1 in Philadelphia. They had a little bit of a streak going. Alain Vigneault was very ecstatic to say that, you know, finally we're getting some scoring touch around the net. The boys are grinding a little bit harder, but I think it comes right down to it. Jeff Hackett's playing well, but where are your big goal scorers? Where's, you know, Koivu is starting to come around a little bit, but he's not the player that they are shelling out $3 million for. I guarantee you that.
One note there on the game is talking about a former St. John player is Laddie Cohn. Let's give Pat Quinn some credit here. He's in the top 5 scoring in the AHL, and next thing you know, he's out on the line with Matt Sundin and Steve Thomas. And what a way to give a guy confidence. So Toronto's playing well.
He was out on the line for the opening face-off Saturday night. And I mean, you know, it's good to see, you know, former Flame. You wish that, you know, he was still in the Calgary organization the way he's playing this year. But, you know, it's like Pat Quinn said earlier in the week, he got bumped around a little bit when they played Buffalo on Wednesday or Thursday night, I think it was. And his status was a little up in the air, but it's good to see him back in the lineup. And like Pat Quinn said, this guy can put the puck in the net. Right. So why would I bring him up from Newfoundland to have him sit on the bench? This guy's going to play. And obviously he is playing. It gets back to what we were talking about, Terry, that, you know, these guys come up from the AHL and they just kind of, most of the fans seem like, oh, geez, they're just floating around. They're not scoring any goals because they're playing on a 3rd or 4th line. They really don't have any good setup men with them. But Pat Quinn did a great thing. He threw them right in with the top line. Cohn's getting a lot of ice time, and he's starting to produce, and you're exactly right. It's good to see, no question about it. Big weekend for provincial hoops up in Fredericton. Oh,
real big weekend. The final 12. 12 teams from around the province get to play in the championship game. And just a quick rundown on some of the sections. There's AAA, AA, and Single A around the province. Well, we had Petitcodiac girls win the single A. We had the Graham and Ann boys winning the single A.
Really?
Which was a great game. It was a 1-point ball game. Carleton North lost out to Sussex. Sussex with Peter McAleenan and the girls in the AA Division 1. And then Don Walker, a second victory in a row for St. Stephen in the boys AA game. So Donnie's a class coach, and the team just keeps on playing down there for him. And then Fredericton High School girls played Harrison Trumbull, and that ended up being a 30-point win for Fredericton High School. It was no surprise. Harrison Trumbull stayed in the game for a while, but just the pressure of the Fredericton girls being able to go 10 deep on their bench. And one good note, though, for Harrison Trumbull, watch out for them next year, Jim. They had 11 returning players from this year's team that went to the championship game.
That always helps.
So that helps. And then finally, the boys' game. Fredericton was playing Oromoncto, which is only 10 kilometers down the highway, so it was a loud crowd. Everyone was into it. Ended up being another 30-point basketball game. Fredericton High just had too many weapons. Oromoncto shot 13%, 4 for 30 in the first half.
Brutal.
So when you
tossing up bricks, yeah.
Tossing up bricks. So when you look at it from that angle, Andy Cotter in the backcourt, Jimmy hit 5 3-pointers. Another kid, Spinks, he's one of their starters, but not one of their main scorers, showed up with 16 points on the night. And the guards from Oromoncto, the big guys in the middle, Mike Mercer scored 20, and the 3 backcourt players, Billings, Vautour, and Crosman, only put up 6 points on the night. So basically the game come to the backcourt. Fredericton shut down their backcourt, but it was an exciting night. It was an exciting night.
Now, those are the results, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you'll remember a couple of months ago we had Terry here in the studio before the provincials got rolling, and we asked him to give us his picks for the year. Here's what he had to say. Let's see how they match up.
They won it last year, so I would say the Fredericton is the front runner. I think KV, Moncton High, early in the season, of course, Moncton lost by 20 to KV. So
sure.
I think those 4 teams, and St. John High School, who knows? I mean, the season's early. It depends on how far you develop.
Injuries are always a big question.
Injuries, and all you have to do is make it to the dance at the end of the year. There's 8 teams around the province, and number 4 has beat number 1 before on several different occasions. So it's all a matter of where you are and how you progress as the year goes on. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Well, we've got you on tape as soon as the dance. There you go. I told you we were going to roll the tape back. 3 out of 4, though. Not bad, Terry.
Well, I missed out on Moncton High. Oromoncto played Moncton. Moncton was hosting the regional up there, and Oromoncto came out and played a good game. They had a good front court, and Moncton just wasn't able to compete with them at the front court aspects of the game, and Oromoncto advanced to Fredericton. But I got Fredericton right. But I didn't really go out on a limb on that one now, Jim.
Well, you got 3 out of 4. Next time I go by a pro line, you're coming with me. Let's move on to, of course, hockey's coming up, or playoff hockey, I should say, for the high school level. It starts tonight. Give us a rundown on what we got for first rounds.
The first round, we have Meadow High School coming in to play Hampton tonight in Hampton. We've got Harborview High School playing St. Stephen. That will start later this week. And we have St. Andrews playing Rossay Collegiate School, and Fundy playing Rossay High School. Oh my God, I almost forgot it all. But anyhow, that all starts this week in the AA League. The AAA League, the 4 semifinalists have been decided as well. In what particular order, we don't know yet, but it's going to be Edmundston High School, Oromoncto, Fredericton, and KV High School. So that starts in a week's time.
Look forward to it. Do you want to make any predictions so we can roll the tape back in a couple of weeks?
Yes, in the AA.
I knew you would. I knew you would.
AA, we're going to Hampton and St. Stephen play in the final.
Okay.
The 2 of them will go on the provincials and represent us in the AA level. It's only a 1-game final, and that 1 game is for the seeding as well for the provincials. So it's hard to say in 1 game who will win between those 2 schools, but they'll be the 2 finalists. Okay.
All right.
In the AAAs, it's going to be a Fredericton Oromoncto, or Fredericton Oromoncto semi, I think.
Okay.
And Edmundston KV. That's not decided, but that's what it's looking like right now. And I can see Edmundston going against Fredericton in the final, and Fredericton win the AAA as well.
Okay. So those are your picks.
That's my picks.
All right, Donnie's got those locked in back in the studio, so hold on to that tape, Donnie. We'll be rolling that back in a couple of weeks' time, but we look forward to it. It's always great when the playoffs get started in the high school level, and we wish all the best to all the teams as well. Boys, we still got a lot to talk about, so don't go far. We're going to take a little break, but we're coming right back, and we hope you come back as well.
Tudor, T-U-D-O-R. That's Henry's decree.
Not all batteries are created equal. They may look alike.
Shift.
Tuesdays at 9 and again Saturday at 6 on Channel 10 TVNB. Brought to you in part by UAP Napa.
Take me home. Fly like a man who will lay down beside me. I've got twin.
Maritime Country. Saddle up for the ride. Monday night at 7 or Saturdays at 10 on TVNB.
Myself.
You're watching TVNB, the New Brunswick channel.
And welcome back into the second half of time out here on TVNB. Jim Hennessy, Terry Ferguson, and Bruce McDonald. Before we get back to the conversation, want to make note that the athletes are there and they're ready to go in Corner Brook, Newfoundland for the Canada Winter Games. Got underway this past weekend. And of course, we want to make mention that the New Brunswick wheelchair basketball team is on their way en route to Newfoundland as we speak, and they will be competing in the latter half of the week. But before they went over, they had some pre-warm-up games, and they beat Newfoundland 65-25. And that game can be seen right here on TVNB coming up this Saturday, February 27th at 7 o'clock. Now, of course, that hinders on a lot of things. The Flames play on Saturday night, and we'll have our cameras down at Harper Station. If local blackout is not in effect, the Flames game will be on here Saturday night for Saturday Night Sports, February 27th. But if local blackout is in effect, of course, you're going to get to see some great wheelchair basketball. Finally got that all out. Whew, glad I remembered it. Anyway, let's turn the page here to baseball. Spring training, of course, hard to believe, I know, but they're getting ready to fire things up this week. The Blue Jays, all roster players had to report today. The big rumor, or it's not a rumor anymore, the big deal with the Blue Jays over the past week has been the Rocket Man is gone. 3 players, which I think 2 players out of the 3 that the Blue Jays picked up, I think will help them. The trade involves Roger going to New York. In exchange, the Blue Jays get Graham Lloyd, Homer Bush, great new prospect, and a former Blue Jay, David Wells. Terry, I guess we'll start with you. What do you think of all this?
Well, it doesn't sound like Dave Wells was too happy about going to Toronto. And Clemens is going to help the Yankees. There's no doubt about that. He just brings that confidence to the rest of his players when he walks out on the field to take the mound. Homer Bush is the big guy. Lloyd and Plesac, they're setup guys, lefties out of the bullpen. Will Plesac's role change or will Lloyd's role change? You can't have 2 lefties out there doing that type of work. So how that's going to fit, I don't know. Homer Bush, they need a second baseman. Graybeck's not a second baseman that's going to hit big numbers for you. He's a good all-around solid player, though. He plays good defense. So Homer Bush may be the big guy in this trade. And then the Blue Jays themselves, it depends on how, Cecil Fielder and some other pickups that they do. Sure. How they perform this year and see where they go. But it looks good for the Blue Jays. But losing Clemens, hey, there's a good solid guy in the clubhouse. But, hey, he wasn't too happy to be in Toronto anyway, so maybe it's best that he has moved on.
Well, it gives that extra shot to Pat Henkin, of course. Henkin, of course, winning the Cy Young a couple of years back. He was the man in Toronto. Then all of a sudden, to bolster the lineup, they bring in the Rocket Man, which can't hurt them. But there always seemed to be a little animosity between those two. Henkin, of course, winning the Cy Young, having a great year, thought, okay, I'm going to be the #1 pitcher here for a few years down the road. Roger comes in, of course, at that time, a 4-time Cy Young Award winner. Of course, he's going to get the nod as the #1 starter. So a little animosity there. So I think you're going to see a better year from Pat Henkin this year on the mound, no question about it. Out of the 22 players that showed up early on the weekend, Bruce, 14 were pitchers. So it looks like they want to get the arms in shape and loosen up the cobwebs and get ready to go.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jim. I think Pat Henkin should step up this year and have a big year for Toronto. And they do have a lot of talent there as well. And you have to remember, David Wells won 15 games for the Yankees last year. The thing that concerns me about him is, his history, and he's a bit of a partier and everything else, and he's 36 years old now as well.
Well, he's got to pass the physical,
Now, the only question I had was when the deal went down, the media was saying that Lloyd and Wells were both former Blue Jays. I don't remember Lloyd ever playing for the Blue Jays myself.
I don't remember Graham Lloyd ever.
Yeah, and like you say about Homer Bush, that's very true what you said. He's 26 years old, and he's been a prospect in the Yankee system for years. The Blue Jays do need a second baseman badly, so he'll get a real shot there as well. So I think overall it wasn't a bad deal, and the great get even better down there in New York with the Rocket Man.
Exactly.
He should win 20 there for a joke.
Well, I'm going to make a prediction right now, and Donnie, keep the tape rolling on this one. I just think that Clemens is doomed to always be the bridesmaid and never the bride.
Right?
I mean, the Yankees got a great club, don't get me wrong. I mean, they're, after their season last year, being touted as one of the greatest baseball teams ever. But going on the record right now saying that they will not win the World Series this year, Roger Clemens will not get his ring, and you know the saga continues for the Rocket
Who will
Man.
win it then?
Who's going to win the World Series? I'm not going that
The
far.
Expos.
Well, I mean, it's good that you turn the page to the Expos. Thursday, they officially open their training camp,
Yes.
and they've got, you know, for the first time in years, have got the players that they felt were a good chemistry and a good mix last year.
Yeah.
All coming back this year.
Yep.
There's a lot of positive smiles when you walk around the Expos training camp this year. There were a couple of more rumors floating around this year that you know, the financial end of it in Montreal might finally be settled. Claude Brochu, they're trying to give him the old yank, which is good news for Expos fans, because he's been a thorn in their side for the last, well, thorn in your side especially, because you're a huge Expos fan. But
Yes.
Brochu was out. There's a gentleman coming in that's got $175 million. He said that he wants to put into this team to keep in Montreal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, positive signs all the way around for Montreal so far.
Actually, I'm going to be one of the people too. I'm going to play the pro line this weekend and win $2 million. I'm going to invest that into the Expos.
Talking about the gentleman in
Talk about the guy
Quebec.
from Quebec that
Yeah.
won $1.7 million last week. He's my hero.
250. Yeah, spent $250,000. That's you got to have a good return when you spend that much on pro line.
But the Expos, yeah, I agree with you. They're set at most positions now. They picked up a new left fielder there, Alendra Merced, which I don't know. A few years back he hit. I don't know if he's going to help them or not. But every other position, I mean, they got some good talent. Their pitching staff might still be a little bit thin. I'd like to see them pick up another pitcher.
Sure.
That would help them. And then you know, I think they have the best manager in the game, and Felipe Alou.
No
and
question.
he performs miracles there. So who knows?
Well, with $175 million thrown into the mix, I mean, that's a little more trade bait to throw around, especially when you don't have a lot of players, and it's got to be cash instead of players. But you know, with their affiliate being the Ottawa Lynx, I mean, how many great players have come out of there over the past 7-8 years? So they definitely have some trade bait down there, because they keep talking about these nice prospects they do have down in Ottawa. Plus, the added cash will help out. It gives that players a little bit extra security when they go on the field. Like, it's just going to be the last time we play at the Big O or in Montreal. So it looks like things are starting to stable up in Montreal a little bit, which is nice. Anything was on your mind you want to talk about that was hard-hitting from the past week? Or
Well, just the Expos. I am an Expo fan, and sure they are in Canada, and the Blue Jays do take the priority of everybody's attention in that. But if they're able to keep that team together, I mean, they got a good 3, 4, 5 spot now, I think, with Fulmer at first base having a good rookie year. Shane Andrews re-signed. Maybe if he can bring his numbers up a bit, he can hit home runs if he can stay healthy. They've got a kid by the name of Guerrero in right field, who I think in another couple of years could be the marquee player in baseball as far as the, you know, when you're talking, you know, the 5-tool player or whatever, he's got it all.
But will he be in Montreal, though? That's the problem.
Well, he got him signed for another 3 years.
I
so
hope he stays there.
And then you got Rondell White after breaking his thumb last year. He's a good quality player. And Bruce, you alluded to it, Moises Alou, and you're looking at their pitching. And I'd just like to see the Expos have a bit of a come-out year, and if they can settle the things, get themselves to downtown Montreal, put a few more people in the stadium, maybe it'll revive that franchise.
we certainly hope so. Anyway,
I agree.
Anything from the past week that was on your mind you want to get off your chest? Or?
Just a couple other local things. The Thomas Construction Junior B hockey team started their playoffs. Friday they lost 7-0 in Woodstock, and they pulled up a 3-1 victory Saturday evening at the LBR, which of course I didn't see. I was at Harbor Station. And then the Midget Flames also started their playoffs. They won, I believe it was 4-2 Tuesday night.
Yes.
Game 1. They lost in overtime in Miramichi Friday, and they won in overtime Saturday afternoon at the LBR. So they're up 4 points to 2 in the 8-point quarterfinal, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So we wish the boys all the best, because I mean they had a great run last year, and of course when you have that kind of a run like you know, the St. John Flames did, made it all the way to the Calder Cup final. Expectations are always high going into the next year, but Ivan Votor has got that team clicking the latter half of the season. Made a couple of changes to the lineup, and the goaltending's been strong coming down the stretch, so hopefully they can make another good run. One thing I wanted to talk about a week and a half ago, we had the great pleasure of being at St. John High School for the 16th annual Dave McPherson Memorial Basketball game, and a bit of a sentimental night as well. Former employee here, co-worker, TVNB, and a great friend and a great guy all the way around. David Ring, that's what St. John High's Gymnasium is now under the title of, the Dave Ring Memorial Gym. Give us your feelings on the game. You did, by the way, before you get started, you did some great work. I mean, you put in some serious overtime that night, and we appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I wanted to do it. Dave Ring did a lot in the community, and the Dave McPherson Memorial Game has been going on for 16 years. So they touted the night as the night of the 2 days, and it was very appropriate to do it that way. and the McPherson family went along with it. That shows you, you know, how much that they felt putting the two names together for that night. And it was just overall just a great night. A lot of people were out, 1,000 people in the gym. There was no problem getting people to come on the airways with us, Jim, as you know.
Absolutely.
To say some nice superlatives about what Dave Ring was about. And it was just a fantastic night, and I'm really happy and proud that TVNB made sure that they did a quality job on it, and I heard a lot of great comments, and thanks to yourself for showing up as well. It was a great night.
No problem. It was a pleasure. Probably the one memory that I have from David that sticks out in my mind is from working at the radio station. I mean, we'd get in there last year when the Flames were in the Calder Cup final. We'd work till sometimes 11:30, midnight at night, and then be back into work at 3:30 in the morning that same day, I guess, because it felt like the same day. You just went down, laid your head down for 45 minutes, and you were back at work. The first message, and I mean, this just wasn't during the Calder Cup final, or, you know, it was all the time. First message on the phone when you checked to get the scores was Dave. Dave Ring reporting from St. John High, or Dave Ring reporting from Memorial Field. I mean, David was always there. Blinding snowstorm, whether they got back into town at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, didn't matter. He'd make sure that we had that score.
That's one thing that David did for myself when I coached at St. John High School, is David said, Terry, I'll take care of all your public relations. And I said, that's great, because that's just one extra thing when you get home after you finish playing and you want to get something to eat or wind down before you go to work the next day and do the things all over again. Dave Ring said, win, lose, or draw, you have to report the games to the media.
No question.
And he was a stickler on that. He believed in that. And hopefully there's other people out there that'll listen to Dave's advice, because I think it's so important that you do report the information. And Dave was a all-around best volunteer that I've ever been around and associated with my time in sports around the city.
No question. Totally out of time, gentlemen. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much for tuning in. We hope to see you again next Monday at 6 o'clock. Have yourself a good week.